October 23rd, Feast of St. John of Capistrano. Welcome to Daily Saints with Grace. Fast, faithful storytelling that moves and stays with you. Tonight we meet a court lawyer who walked into prison one man and walked out a Franciscan fire. He preached across Europe with a voice like a bell, rallied a terrified city with the cross held high, and died days after victory. John of Capistrano. Was he a reformer, a thunderbolt, a lightning rod for controversy, or all three at once? Stay close. We'll follow the papers, the prison, the habit, and the battlefield where fear blinked first. He starts in Capistrano, Italy, 1386. Sharp mind, quick tongue, a star in law, courts in Perugia notice. Soon he's not just arguing cases, he's governing a city. Politics turns fast. A local conflict snaps shut like a trap, and John lands in prison. Ambition ground to silence. In the dark, he does the math. Titles fade, bars don't. He prays, promises, and aims his life at a different court. When the door opens, he heads not to power but to poverty. He enters the observant Franciscans, the strict reform wing, under the guidance of Bernardine of Siena. The lawman becomes a friar. Not a demotion, a new jurisdiction. Souls. Picture crowded squares, carts, cloaks, market noise, then a hush that rolls like wind. John climbs a plank platform. No microphone, just clarity. He calls for penance, mercy, clean dealing, and a return to the simple evangelical life Francis loved. He travels light and far. Italy, Germany, the Low Countries, Central Europe, preaching, advising, and stitching torn houses back together. He backs the IHS devotion championed by Bernardine, not as a style but as a name to live by. Not everyone claps. His century is combustible. Reports describe preaching campaigns that collided with politics and hard lines on heresy. Historians debate his exact role when crowds ran hotter than sermons. Keep the frame clear. John wants conversion more than applause, and he runs straight into the places conversion is hardest. Pope's right, John answers. Cities argue, John mediates. He carries letters, not swords, and still moves borders inside hearts. As an observant, he pushes reform within the Franciscan family. Poverty with backbone, obedience with joy. He confronts errors the way a lawyer dismantles a case, point by point in public. Missions against Hussite teaching and other disputes put him on a hard road where argument and identity lock horns. We read those years with open eyes. Saints are not spotless eras. They are people who spend themselves where the need is sharpest. 1453 falls like a stone. Constantinople is taken, and fear ripples west. 2 summers later, 1456, the Ottoman army moves toward Belgrade, the gate to the Danube and the heartland. John Hunyadi prepares the defense. Rome calls for prayer and fasting. Tradition says Pope Calixtus III orders the noon bell across Christendom to beg heaven's help. Enter John of Capistrano, old, thin, and burning. He doesn't plan tactics. He preaches courage. He gathers peasants and townsmen, not as an army of skill but as a people who won't run. Cross in hand, he walks the walls and speaks like a man who remembers a prison and fears only cowardice. Cannons cough, towers burn. The river boils with boats. Hunyadi strikes where the iron is thinnest. John's volunteers surge where faith is thickest. Stories from the day disagree on the choreography. Who moved first? Which gate? What signal? But they agree on the center. A friar threads the chaos with a wooden cross and a voice that won't crack. The enemy falters, the defenders hold, and the siege breaks. Belgrade stands. Europe exhales. John does not celebrate long. Disease sweeps the camp. He nurses the sick until he collapses. He dies October 23, 1456, at a lock on the Danube, spent, quiet, and finally at rest. After the dust, the records remain. A lawyer turned friar, a reformer whose preaching shook plazas, a pastor at a wall when an empire pressed in. He becomes patron of military chaplains and jurists, 2 worlds he bridged with one conscience. In 1690 he's canonized, his name sailing farther west to a mission city you know as San Juan Capistrano. The hard questions stay on the table. Some of his century's solutions were sharp. Some sermons lit fires he did not intend. We say that aloud so we can hear him clearly. Repent quickly, act bravely, love truth without loving rage. That's the spine he tried to hand on. What do you do when your plans collapse and the door locks? John shows another path. Convert the ambition, keep the zeal, change the aim. He left the courtroom, not his courage. He left the city hall, not his hunger for justice. And when history asked for a voice on a wall, he brought one steady, lean, and clean. Take his rule into your week. Pray first, simplify, tell the truth, and when fear gets loud, lift the cross higher than your opinion. St. John of Capistrano, pray that we spend our strength on the things that actually save.